We're seeing automakers pull back and reverse on their EV stance and their EV deadlines and plans. Today, we're going to break down which automakers are pulling back, which it's most of them. We'll also talk about which automakers have yet to reveal what they're going to do with the lull in EV uptake. Guys, grab your snacks and drinks. This is going to be a fun one. If you guys are excited for today's video, smash the like button and make sure you subscribe for more industry auto news. We have so many automakers to break down today. I guess we'll start with the German automakers, but over at CarBuzz, we also are going to talk about how Ford is losing billions on EVs, but they also break down how a lot of the automakers are also flip-flopping on their EV decisions. But at the end, we'll talk about Honda, Toyota, Nissan, what their plans still are and haven't changed, and whether they will change that in the future, we'll find out, but I'll talk more about that at the end. EV adoption is kind of flatlined here in the United States. Tesla is not seeing huge growth anymore. In fact, they're seeing negative growth. They're shrinking a little bit in the United States as there's just a lot of other options out there for EVs. There's a lot of incentives to move EVs right now from other automakers. But let's start with the German automakers. They were some of the most aggressive on rolling out EVs. Why were they most aggressive? Well, Europe is very aggressive with policies from the governmental end, killing off internal combustion, incentivizing these companies to go full EV, but also China. A lot of these German automakers have a foothold in China, or they used to. But since they've been losing ground in China, they have to come out with EVs to compete in the very aggressively swinging Chinese market towards EVs. And it's not looking good for not only the German automakers in China, it's looking bad for the Japanese Actually, it's looking bad for any automaker that is not Chinese in the Chinese market. It's getting really ugly over there. But let's get into BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and they're all investing in combustion engines today as they plan for an electric tomorrow. Benz had vowed to go all electric by 2030. Now, Lexus plans to go fully electric by 2030. I think Volvo plans to go, Genesis plans to go fully electric by 2030, but Mercedes says where market conditions allowed. Now, the only market condition that might allow for fully electric by 2030 at this point is China. So their EV sales are muted in key markets, especially here in the United States. Mercedes plans to develop internal combustion engine and electric cars in parallel for longer than originally thought. I made a video not that long ago how Mercedes-Benz is reinvesting in V8s. I'm driving an Audi S8 right now, twin turbo V8. Thing's an absolute silent missile. Sounds good if you really ring out the engine, but like it's fantastic, but it costs $150,000. But that sort of vehicle, I wouldn't take pretty much any EV over it. All right, let me know down below if you would take any EV over an S8. Let's get back on topic here. The speed of transformation is impossible to foresee how long it will take, and they are well positioned to play the flexibility card. Isn't it funny? Toyota, just a couple years ago, everyone was calling them out like they hadn't rolled out EV plans, or at least very aggressive EV plans. And here's Toyota reaping all-time profits on the back of their hybrids and internal combustion engines, while its competitors that went too electrified too fast they're burning billions of dollars. And it's just kind of comical from the scope of Toyota, the world's largest automaker. Now, again, watch all my recent Toyota videos. They're in a whole host of problems of their own design with false certifications, recalls, engine recalls, safety recalls. They have their own demons to fight. And in fact, it's just kind of funny that none of it has to do with electrification, even though their hybrids are printing them money at this point. So BMW, you could call them a partner and friend of Toyota, is still spreading its investments across ICE, hybrid, BEV, and hydrogen. Sounds like Toyota. And BMW will update gasoline-powered models in the next few years. Like Toyota, BMW wants to make sure they can cater to all customer groups. And we think that having a flexible car with different powertrains is a very good one. BMW is able to put internal combustion engines and batteries and have very good battery electric vehicles. Watch my i7 review, as well as very good internal combustion engine on the same vehicle. They just swap the powertrains out. It's not the most efficient, but it is good, and they're seeing success with that sort of flexibility. BMW still expects EVs to account for half of its sales by 2030. That's funny because Lexus, which Toyota's typically more conservative with EVs, Lexus says, hey, we will be fully electric China, Europe, United States by 2030. To help get there, BMW will launch 6 BEV models based on all new class of platform, including electric variants on the workhorse X3. The redesigned X3 just came out, and best-selling X5. So this new class is not going to be shared with any gas cars as far as I'm aware. They are all fully battery electric. And so that's where BMW is kind of maybe a step ahead of its competition. Volkswagen's Audi is still pursuing all electric by 2033. Its premium platform electric architecture will underpin 2 models in the near term with the Q6 e-tron and A6 e-tron. So that kind of sums up what the Germans are doing. Let's head over to CarBuzz, and we're seeing quite aggressive pullbacks from the American automakers. So let's start with Ford. In 2021, Ford predicted 40% of the company's sales would be EVs by 2030, and they would be joining forces with Korean battery maker SK and spend nearly $12 billion on battery plants. And they remind us when the F-150 Lightning came out and demand was really high, it seemed like Ford was maybe on the right track at the time. But demand fell off of a cliff after a year of the initial buyers of the F-150 Lightning. And it wasn't long when Ford paused their $12 billion investment. Now they're pivoting towards hybrids across all divisions, which, look at the Maverick. That vehicle's printing money for them. They just came out with a refresh. They increased the prices quite a bit as well in the Maverick, but they know hybrids is the moneymaker in today's market. Ford has a new platform coming out in 2026, and it'll be more affordable, but we don't know anything about it at this point. So this might be pushed back. This seems to be very lofty in my opinion, because this decision to go to this new, more affordable platform it was fairly recent. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to get it out by 2026. But Ford is not going to fully electric in Europe by 2030. They pushed it to 2035, right? Just keep pushing the goalposts back, the finish line back, because no one knows what the market is going to have in the near term. Also remember, Ford is losing currently $50,000 on every electric car sold. Earlier this year is about $100,000, so they're moving in the right direction. But so far, they've lost $2.5 billion on EVs, and that's just pretty much halfway through the year. So we're going to lose $5 billion if you're Ford on EVs by the end of the year. And you got to keep in mind that they had a plant in Michigan that they just scrapped for EVs, and they're going to be making heavy-duty pickup trucks there instead. All right, General Motors, they've been one of the latest to roll back and kind of flip-flop on their EV outlooks. In 2020, General Motors said they would release 30 new EVs by 2025 and invest more than $10 billion doing so. Just doing the math in my head right now, I can only count maybe about 10 new EVs that they've come out with since 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong down below. I'm sure that includes the Buick brand, which though that has just been pushed back as well. Buick EV plans. Cadillac currently only has one EV, and will they have another one out by 2025? Probably the Escalade, right? We know the Equinox and Blazer EVs. We have the Silverado EV. But General Motors is going back to hybrids. They've kind of gotten away from hybrids. They thought the market was going to go to full EV. It didn't. They scrapped what was a good plug-in hybrid for them, the Volt, which you can say the Prius Prime kind of embodies that same spirit in a lot of ways, but Prius Prime's not available right now because of the recall situation on that vehicle. Cadillac is not going fully electric by 2030 as the company originally planned. Again, what will its competition do? That's very bold of them. Now, Cadillac, guys, watch my review on the Escalade, the CT5V series Blackwing. Those vehicles are incredible. super, super impressive, all on the backs of silky smooth and awesome V8s. If Cadillac gets rid of the V8, Cadillac dies, in my opinion. Buick will not have EVs coming to the US this year. They keep rolling that back. Chevy and GMC EV trucks will not see expanded production at least until middle 2026. Again, that will probably be pushed back as well. New plug-in hybrids are set to arrive by 2027, and another Bolt is coming as well. Again, we don't know the timeline on that Bolt that I'm aware of. And the company is committed to ending tailpipe emissions by 2035, though it now says it will largely be reliant on customer acceptance. Okay, so yeah, all their EV timelines, they're just out. They're done at this point. They're like, well, whatever the market, right? It depends on the market. It depends on the customer. These big automakers are waking up, realizing that the products that they're making isn't what the majority want, especially here in the United States. Moving on to Volkswagen, former largest automaker in the world, I guess you could say probably pre-Dieselgate. But Volkswagen has said that in Europe, they want to see 70% of their sales be fully electric by 2030. And in US and China, by 2030, 50% of its sales be EV. Porsche said they wanted 80% of EV sales by 2030, but they haven't rolled back their goals, interestingly. It's only a matter of time, in my opinion, but they're keeping combustion engine alive longer, and they want to reinvest more into plug-in hybrids. I can't tell you the last time I saw a plug-in hybrid Volkswagen in America. Has there ever been a plug-in hybrid Volkswagen? Audi, yes, there has been. I think there was a Q7 plug-in hybrid that I remember last, but that could have been discontinued 2-3 years ago at this point. Porsche said it's already rolling back their EV goals. Remember, they wanted to be 80% EV by 2030 because Porsche is not seeing sustained interest in the products. Look how much the value of a Taycan drops. We're seeing huge plummets in resale value of Porsche EVs. Porsche's not interested in cheapening their brand. They need to be elite luxury and elite luxury performance. And if they have EVs that plummet like a rock, that cheapens the brand. So in my opinion, going fully EV for them in the near term is not very smart. But I could say that for pretty much every luxury brand in their EV plans. Now, Jaguar Land Rover has big problems. This is the only vehicle that's surviving for Jaguar. The rest of them are being killed off. And the F-Pace was planning on getting on EV, but Land Rover's rethinking that decision. I don't know if Jaguar is going to survive. How can you survive on one model? I mean, some of the EV startups have, but they're not. Most of those EV startups are not doing well financially on the backs of one model. So I think Jaguar just needs to be retired at this point. Let this brand die. Let it go out with some sort of respect instead of converting it to EV and then it going to the way of the dodo as well. Anyways, Jaguar, my heart goes out to the brand, but I just don't see them going forward. But back to EVs, Land Rover said they will be pivoting just slightly from the original plan of 6 EVs by 2026 to just 4. And why? Because of the slowing EV market. All right, Honda here. So we know the Japanese automakers are traditionally very conservative. They don't rush into things. They see where the market takes, and then they will invest once the market is showing certain buying patterns or tendencies or interests. Honda's been extremely aggressive. They're the only Japanese automaker to say, hey, we will be battery electric or fuel cell 100%, no doubt in their minds, by 2040. And they have big EV plant investments in Canada. This was in April. $15 billion in Canadian money to plunge into EV supply chain up there. We know the EV plant in Ohio, the EV hub there, we're on assembly line 2 over there in Ohio, is going to be coming online fairly soon as well, 2026, I believe. So Honda still hasn't changed their mind on EV uptake. What about Toyota? Toyota has slowly increased over the years on EV saturation. Past 2 years at this point, they're saying that EV penetration will be about 33% of their sales globally by 2030. And here's their battery and platform rollout in the next few years. Supposedly we're going to have all solid state batteries on high-end Toyotas, or should I say Lexuses, in 2027, 2028. All right, we're going to have a new platform on the Lexus platform anyways, and it'll trickle down to Toyota over the years, coming out in 2026. And the range that they're quoting here, 550 miles all the way up to 750 miles on next gen solid state. Again, here's the thing, demand will increase with BEVs as cost comes down, as range goes up, and as charging comes down. All right, or charging times, I should say. That's all going to take time, as well as EV infrastructure, depending on where you live, that needs to be built out as well. In America, it's going to take decades for EV infrastructure to be built out in order for that technology to kick internal combustion. And I think with Toyota's battery technology, they might be having affordable EVs in the near term, and hopefully all the automakers will. As of right now, EVs are the best vehicle for in and around town. If you have to drive out of town and you only have one car, I would not be picking an EV, but everyone has different needs and different lifestyles. And Toyota's luxury division, Lexus, has said they want to be EV fully, US, China, Europe, 2030. That will change. I am 100% certain of it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right, but in my opinion, Lexus will renege. They will backpedal on that EV stance by 2030. Their customers in America, there's no way that they want to skip their excellent hybrids and plug-in hybrids and go fully electric by 2030. There's just no way. Maybe by 2040 is a possibility for Lexus to be fully electric. By 2030 here in this market, there's no way it happens. Lexus would be writing their own death and digging their own grave if they stick with fully electric by 2030 here in North America, because that utopia of a BEV paradise by 2030 is all becoming unraveled at this point for other automakers as well as Toyota. But again, Toyota still playing the long game. Nissan, I don't know what game they're playing. They have just teamed up with Honda for EVs and software-defined vehicles. That is a huge benefit for Nissan and a huge benefit for Honda, because it allows Honda to kind of come out with the technology that they've already been planning for at a reduced cost. And Mitsubishi's in on this as well. But check this out. Nissan wants to have 40% of their global lineup EV by 2030, 20% plug-in hybrid, or normal hybrid. Their e-powers are normal hybrid, and then 40% ICE by 2030. That is foolish in my opinion. I think it should be 40% e-power / plug-in hybrid, 20% ICE, and well, maybe even less EV by 2030. So Nissan just can't figure out that the market, at least here in the United States, is demanding their e-power technologies, demanding affordable and good performing and fuel efficient hybrids, and Nissan still has nothing on the market. So Nissan, no one wants your Aria. It's a beautiful EV. It's a good car, but is it better than the competition? No, it's just kind of average. And that's the way it is for most of these automakers. They're limited by battery capacities at this point. They're limited by software. Most of them are limited by software. And so most EVs out there, it's just kind of like, well, what deal is the best I can get on an EV for a lease? Because you do not want to own an EV right now. Values plummet the second you drive it off the lot, more so than internal combustion by a long shot. EV value. So you lease them, you give them back to the dealer after 3 years. That's all I have to say with the EV market and how everyone that had big plans for EVs, at least the Western companies, not the Eastern Chinese companies, or you could say Japan has kind of a Western foothold, right? With the Japanese automakers. The Japanese automakers haven't made any announcements yet with EV changes and goalpost changes, because they never made extremely lofty timelines as it was, except for Lexus, in my opinion. Lexus, they're going to have to change that. But the auto market in general right now is slowing down. It's about neutral. It's just slightly up on the year so far. Even Toyota's seeing some downturn, mainly due to their own fault. We're going to be seeing a second half slowdown more than likely, as affordability is still a huge issue for customers. high interest rates, prices are still at near all-time highs, and then everything else outside of cars, houses, rent, insurance, taxes, inflation for groceries and other goods, everything has gone up, and the car market is going to suffer as a result, in my opinion, in the second half of 2024. And who knows where we'll be as we enter 2025. But guys, make sure you subscribe because the industry is changing, the market's changing, the economy is changing. EVs, well, they're not going to be the answer for the majority of customers by the end of this decade, like a lot of the luxury automakers thought, nor the mainstream automakers here in America either. So I'll catch you guys in the comments. It'll be fun to see what you all have to say. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more and have a great day. Peace.